We're going to call to order this meeting. It is 6 o'clock on February 5th. We're going to start off with a pledge of allegiance by Councilman Sands and then an opening prayer by Councilman Chase.
Please join me. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we're grateful to bow our heads before you at this time. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to serve this city. Grateful for the staff that and the planning commission and those that diligently work to keep this city clean and to keep the city safe. We're thankful for the blessings that we have, the freedoms we enjoy here in the United States of America. We pray at this time that we might have thy Spirit to guide and direct us as we make decisions pertaining to the city, and give thee thanks for our blessings. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Gary. Before we go to the approval agenda, I would like to note that we are going to pull item G1. Other than that, I need an approval of the agenda.
So motion to approve the agenda for February 5th.
And Chuck, motion, and Gary. Okay, Chuck and Wayne.
Got two of them.
Yep. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Disclosure and declaration of conflict from anybody on the city council and by the mayor? None? All right, great. We're going to move into our consent agenda. Review and possible approval of meeting minutes from January 15th, 2025 city council meeting.
I move that we go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from January 15th.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Reports. Man, it's going to go nice tonight. Ash Creek Special Service District right here. Hurricane Family's not here. Bob's not here. Hurricane Valley. I said Hurricane Family. Hurricane Valley Fire. Stanley's not here. Val Pressler, Planning and Zoning.
Actually, I reported at the last meeting
Okay.
what we've been doing, and there was just a couple of things on our agenda for next week, and I forgot what they were. I didn't bring my notes.
We've got the exterior lighting code and the
Yeah,
annexation policy.
Yep.
And some discussion on other land use code, just a discussion only.
Great.
Are those modifications or are they rewrites of the entire ordinance?
Just modifications.
Okay.
Small modifications, like
Good.
one word, some places
All right.
on
Yeah.
some of them.
All right. Any questions for Val?
I do think we should maybe, in the future horizon after our work meeting, is put the revision for the MPDO back in for some stuff that will probably come out of that meeting. So maybe just keep that on your radar.
Is that on the agenda for next week? So you can talk.
No.
No, I'm saying just, it's an upcoming
Right.
thing that I think is going to have to do. I do believe we'll have to do a small amendment to the MPDO to clarify some of this.
Yeah, that ordinance.
Yeah, let's get.
I think we
through
should
legal.
first tee up sorry, I have M&M
That's
in my
okay.
mouth. Okay. I think we should first tee up the meeting with planning commission and city council, probably be, well, we'll see when we get it scheduled.
Couple
And
weeks.
then we'll move forward from there.
Okay,
Let's do that.
perfect. Thank you, Kayla.
Solid
Thank you,
waste.
Val. Yeah, you want to talk about solid waste?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the only thing was going on is they had basically an illegal asbestos dumping at the landfill. So they were going through mitigation, litigation, whatever it is to clean it up and get it out of there.
Good.
Contractor that did dump it is working with them. It was just.
Just, they didn't know they was dumping it. They didn't know it was asbestos, or they just, I don't want to know.
I don't know. It just, it was a full report they sent out
Okay.
to us so everybody would know that.
How, have they broke ground on their new waste station and stuff? Do you know?
No, we
That's-
haven't approved the money for it yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's coming this public hearing this meeting.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, perfect. All right, we're going to move on to Darren LaFever, Assistant City Manager.
Okay, so I'm covering a little bit for Bob Lamoureux with Stanley. And Mary, if you could pull up that first photo, that would be great. So essentially, this is the Anderson Junction area, right over the top of, you've got Sapp Brothers, Settlers Junction there to the left. And then over the top is Boulder Ridge. Boulder Ridge, as you can see, is starting to grade and continue. They're going to be a while. They've made their they've did their application for the grading permit. They actually have completed construction plans that are signed. We're just waiting to figure out when they bond for, because they would like to record the plat previous to putting infrastructure such as power, water, those types of things in. So we're waiting for them to do that. In the meantime, Boulder Ridge Phase 1 was the one that they've got application for and approved. They're now submitting one grading permit for the, I think it's 20 acres there to the right of Phase 1, which was the old, which was, kind of north, and it butts right against Phase 1.
Frontage road, right? So off the frontage road?
Yeah, so you can see the road right there that's going, that dirt road that goes kind of the north towards Pine Valley Mountains. That's the separation between phases 1 and 2, or phases 1 and the next one. The other one is that triangular type of piece where where Jerry has always been having the windmills, the different things. He's now came in for a grading permit on that. We're working through the details, trying to get them to do, because essentially you have to create a grading plan in depth of what they're going to do. It's a final grading plan, not a preliminary. It's not a, it has to show the detention ponds, the detention reports, the soils, all of that. So we're working with them on that. IME is still at kind of a standstill right now. Looks like they're getting close to having their first phase graded. And Sapp Brothers on there, right there, they are coming to the final stages of getting everything they need for that traffic light that will be put there through UDOT. The UDOT has not quite signed off on it because they need an additional, a little bit of right of way where the pole will be sitting, the actual pole that sits on the Sapp Brothers side. And
So
so,
that shouldn't be too hard to get the land from Sapp Brothers for that.
no, the Sapp Brothers, I believe, is already committed to give that. And so I think everything's there. And we're just continuing to have.
Do they have just curious, an estimated opening date,
You see on the billboards is fall of this year.
fall this year? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the gas pump pavilions are up and
Yeah, so
it's-
yeah, you
it's
can see this
getting-
coming along. So
Yeah.
they probably will, like I say, once they post their bond, get that street light, that stoplight in and everything, because your motion to let them go
they can't.
without,
Right.
before they had that stoplight completed, requires them to have to get COs on those. They can't get COs until
Until the stoplights.
everything's done
Right.
and all of the other infrastructure's in. They probably will not have the diesel shop quite completely finished, but that will just be interior finishes so they wouldn't get an occupancy permit on the diesel shop. They would get an occupancy permit on the truck stop and travel
Travel
center.
center.
We're gonna call it travel center. It's because they are gonna have some restaurants in there of some sort. We were just thinking they were probably, we don't know exactly what those are going to be, but
Right.
be nice.
There's two for sure, right?
They said two,
Yeah.
but I don't know exactly what those are. But anyway, so the next slide, as we come down the parkway, you can see them, that Judd Palmer is actually grading there on the right side of the road. This is just as the new parkway comes down, you can see kind of the alignment that's coming there. And you can see the road base. And then go to the next slide, would you? That's just kind of back. Let's go one more slide. Oh, perfect. Nice one, huh?
That's the one you took it, right?
One's captured on.
Anyway, so if anybody's driven by there, you can see that they've they've cut into the hillside there where they needed so that they can do the permanent tie-in for the parkway. So it's not just doing the expansion of the asphalt there to reroute traffic as they do that tie-in. So.
Do we know when that's gonna start?
Geez, when you go back a few there. Anyway, so that's next week is when they're planning on
They've got the
possibly
traffic
doing.
study and they're just-
As long as temperatures, the traffic control has not been approved by UDOT as of yet. I don't know when they submitted it or whatever, but yeah, I don't know
I'd love to
exactly.
see that slow down around that corner. with all the-
Yeah, it'll slow down in a few things
So that's all on UDOT to do that?
To approve it.
to approve it, to
the
prove it.
speed limit slowdowns?
Yeah, and then that will also be a temporary access for Firelight phases 1 and 2 for a short time.
Yeah.
And then, which brings us to the next one here is the sand pocket. You can kind of see there that track hose sitting on that. It was interesting. On Monday morning, I got a phone call that says, hey, you got to come out and take a look at this for a minute. And I don't know what's going on. Really? Oh, well. Anyway, so that's one that you can see there is basically they started digging over the last Friday, and they started doing putting the boulders in there as per the geotech engineers recommendations. And I wish I had the other pictures, but today, if you go out there, you can see that they've got a good first layer of rock in there. And they're just going to put another layer of rock. You can see it's almost right up to the top of the crest, or where you can see the shadow of the overhang right there. Coming along well. I went out there today. I was with Jim with AGEC, and he says it looks like it's just going the way. He said there was a lot more material that came out than they expected when they were digging there a little bit. All of that sand just came out all by itself.
Yeah.
And
That
so
sugar sand is
Yeah.
crazy.
yeah, the tracks, both the tracks were completely covered up, and they were sitting there twisting, trying to
Get out.
get it out. Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing, but that's that sand they're sitting on is probably almost, I would say, 10 feet tall. Yeah, that picture doesn't do it justice. There's another one, but anyway, the other thing on the parkway is the power. They've moved the boxes. Oh, there's another picture. The other side. Yeah. So the power on the power boxes are coming along pretty well. They've moved all those over to the side. We're just verifying we're still in right of way, making sure that Rocky Mountain has what they need. If you can see on the south end of the parkway or the Tokerville Boulevard, you'll see them going. They're doing a lot of work on the shoulder there, bringing the power up from Trail Ridge Estate or Joy Creek. Yep, Joy Creek. And just so that everyone is known, as JD was going to reach out to Bailey to get this on the website, but next week, probably Tuesday and Wednesday, it's going to be very limited access into the cemetery as they dig across that entrance and putting in the conduits for that power there. So just so that everybody knows that.
So real quick, I got a flyer from.
Yes, Rocky Mountain Power.
Yeah.
So that's when they're going to be doing the
That-
tie-in for what you're
Okay.
seeing at the very bottom there. They've been doing all that
Okay, so
work.
that's the bottom, not ours.
Yeah.
That's not ours. That's for the.
That'd actually be tying in the power for Firelight and up to our water tank, or our water pumps, I should say. That's
But-
why I had a picture of the
Okay, I
actual,
was hoping it was gonna be for the stuff they're putting in now, but we're not quite that
yeah.
close.
So, yeah, it's yeah, not
Yeah.
quite there, but everything else is going well. Hog's back. We're still just continuing to wait for the power to get relocated. Rocky Mountain Power says that they have all the equipment in their local yard, so they're just ready to go as soon as the contractor has the conduits in the ground.
Okay. When are they gonna cut across the highway?
That's probably going to be not next week, but the following week.
Okay.
Just and they haven't given us a really defined schedule because it is a value engineering project. They're giving us general, so you could say that's within a week of what they're doing there.
On the back of the hog back, did we ever get the water sample back from?
So I was just going to talk about that. That's one of the other ones. Yeah. So the water sample, yes, we did get that back. There is no sewage in it. It's not sewage.
Septically.
And yeah, so we, as JD went out, the guys, I should say JD, the Public Works crew went out. They found a small leak. They've capped that. But I asked Jim, the geotech engineer today, I said, hey, what do you think about that? And he says, I think it's just going to take time to, all that soil has had so much moisture in it. He says it's going to take a while. And I asked him about the integrity of anything on that. He didn't have any concern. He said, I'm not concerned with it right now. He says, it appears, but he says it's been so cold that it hasn't had the opportunity to evaporate that well and easily. But he says there's that material in there, that clay area.
Just holds water.
It holds water. He says you could see that for probably some time. But he says he doesn't
Maybe it'll
feel
be
like it's-
Tocqueville Spring number 2.
Maybe.
If we could tap it and get the water out of it, I could make a water right.
Yeah.
Stick it right
It is. I walked up there yesterday and right to the tip top of it and dug a little hole. Came back a couple hours later and that hole was full of water.
Full water.
So it's still leaching down.
Yeah, it's
That
still,
ice block's gone, right? The ice finally melted. There was a little
No,
something,
that-
right? It was still,
yeah. but
Dry
it was-
above it and then just as soon as that wet starts, you dig a little right there and it's coming out right there.
Yeah, that's what he says is typically you'll see that for a while. And he
Okay.
says, I can't really give you a timeline on when that will.
Yeah.
He says if the spring warms up real fast and we have 100+ degrees temperatures, he said you can see it evaporate and it'll come out of the hillside.
okay,
But he, as far as structurally, he was not concerned.
perfect.
So,
Sorry to keep interrupting you.
nope, you're good. That's all right. That was the last thing I had.
Oh, perfect.
And I actually had pictures of it, but
Yeah, go ahead.
So Boulder, the next phase of Boulder Ridge, it appears to me that so much vacant land's getting graded without anything going on it. And I am surprised they didn't shut the freeway down that last big windstorm. They're not mitigating. And if you allow another 25 acres to be stripped without mitigating or putting a soil crust on that soil,
yeah.
because you literally could not see coming down through there. Of course, the same way across the sand out here too, but that was a lack of,
Lack of water.
they could spray it all.
Was it on the weekend or was that on the weekend or during a weekday?
That was a weekday.
'Cause I didn't.
The
Yeah.
problem is they're still cutting it. And they can't put the stuff down until they're done moving, you know what I mean?
Well, so the guys-
I don't know.
Soil crust is not an additive, it's water,
Yeah.
lower
It's,
compacted.
Okay.
yeah. It's like when you see down Judd Palmer as they're digging that trench up, they're watering it. They're doing all kinds of
Right.
things to mitigate dust and get compaction as well. But
Because if nothing happens to that in another 10 years. And it's
Well, they
just
still
all
got a
graded.
lot of dirt to move, don't they?
they got a lot of dirt to move.
That's what confused me is where the dirt actually came from
Which dirt?
out there, because there's all boulders.
Well,
Gotcha.
I was
didn't Sunrock have a pit out there forever and crush rocks?
Well, so Sunrock years ago received a gravel extraction permit for that. They actually, when they built, what's that exit in Washington there that has the roundabout, is that exit
Oh, yeah,
13?
the Washington Parkway.
Yeah, the Washington Parkway, they thought they were going to get that and they were going to use material from there, but they just didn't pan out for them. But they went up and grubbed that, what you're seeing pretty much most of that right now.
It's okay.
Oh, thank you very much for those pictures again. That makes it nice.
Yeah.
Like
So-
to see that video stuff.
Yep. But yeah, that's really kind of where we're at on that.
Perfect. Any more questions for Darren?
Yep. So we might want to take another look at your grading permits if you guys have concerns with that.
Well,
So,
I think they should be able to manage their dust.
yeah,
But as they dig it down though, I don't know what you need to.
as they dig it down, they've got a dust mitigation plan that they did they actually filed that with the state because it's a bigger site.
Yeah, we just gotta make sure they're following their dust mitigation plan, so.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Well, Sat Brothers are having the same problem because
Yeah.
it's just wiping out the trailer.
Yeah, everybody does.
Comes
Yeah.
up and it just,
It's pretty hard to like leave a site and
It's
the
all of a
next
sudden,
day you
boom.
get 40-mile-an-hour wind and
it wasn't bad.
it's impossible. to-
all right, Ben, we're gonna move over to you.
Yep.
All the good news.
All the good news. We're 2 weeks into the legislative session, and so far we haven't identified any bills that would disproportionately affect Tokerville. The real concern, we've got such good representation on the league with ULCT. The concern is when there's something that affects Tokerville disproportionately to other cities where we may not have adequate representation. So far, we haven't identified anything like that. The city does have 3 seats on LPC. Anybody can view it, but we have 3 official votes. So if there's any council members that are interested in filling one of those vacancies, we kind of just last week we streamed LPC with ULCT here in the room. And so, we technically have the votes if we needed, but generally the votes don't hold a ton of value because there's not much controversy in that group. So it's more about staying in tune and making sure that, like I said, there's nothing that's going to affect us.
Watch each one of them.
They're about an hour once a week. Yeah.
Hour.
A lot of land use activity happening, a lot of building permit requirements being proposed. It's primarily really development related are the major topics, controversial topics that are being considered this session. So the only other things that we're ramping up for our budget season, as you guys know, we have that strategy session tomorrow. And so you're going to be hearing a lot about the budget. And that's kind of what focus has been for the last little bit. So that's all I have to report.
Perfect. I need to go back real quick and pick up some fire district. Just to talk about that, the House, or the bill for the 0.3 cents on the sales tax has had the second reading on the Senate floor, and the third reading might have happened this afternoon. I wasn't sure, probably tomorrow morning, and then they'll vote on it. And the last time they had 100% from the Senate, and then the House is already pretty much guaranteed it's going to pass. So that means we get to reverse the property tax increase that we did last fall. So that will go back to where it was previous years.
Yeah, this early in the session, that's great.
Yeah,
It's
that's
got that
what's
much
really
traction.
good. We've got a lot of good traction. They had some weird verbiage the first reading, and then they changed it, and then they fixed some stuff in it. So the second reading was much better received. So we're really, really excited on that we'll be able to, and it's basically, basically comes down to tourists will pay more of the emergency than our citizens. We'll actually get some money out of it.
That'll be great
So-
news for a lot of people in this area.
Absolutely. And we try to lower property taxes, and if you don't spend a lot of money extra, then you're not really spending,
Yeah.
you're not paying that extra third of a cent. So that's going good. Also, the Hurricane Valley Fire, they want to get more proactive with their wildland crew. Every year they have to do so much in every city value-wise to kind of cover us. So if we have a fire, then the state insurance and the federal insurance covers. They've been coming, they did a burn for us. I think they'll do another burn for us, but so I'll bring it to you. I forgot to bring it in tonight, but they want us to make a list of things we'd like to see them do to help us mitigate fire, and anything that can be done by the fire district. They have to come up with like $14,000 worth of value in Tocqueville City to cover that portion of our wildland fire stuff. So, and they're really serious about doing a little bit better job than what they have over the years past. They're really going to push on that hard. So that's basically what I forgot to bring up on the fire. I figured Merlin was going to be here. So
Come to my backyard.
yeah, well, that's just it. We can do private property. We can do whatever's a problem. And our biggest problem, and when it comes down to it, Tocqueville City, we don't have any moderate fire where the whole city is a high fire danger. And the problem is we have this creek right here. We have Laverton Creek through the other part of town.
The creek beds.
Exactly. And I have met with Ben and Water District and the state fishing game about doing some cleanup down along the creek. We're working on some to figure out how to get that cleaned up. Because I remember it used to be really clean, and we could walk up down the creek. It was really nice. It's so thick and overgrown, but we got to get permission to even go down there and clean it. So we're working on that. So we're going to try to do more of that stuff also. I think that's it. You guys have anything for Ben? Tomorrow at noon, right?
Tomorrow at noon.
Okay. Do we need to come hungry or come full?
Come hungry.
I'll be 15 minutes late.
Is that all? I'm going to be 2 hours.
Any food?
Don't eat my food.
All right, we're going to move into our public forum. We see we got two nice, lovely ladies here. I have a letter from them. So this is from Elizabeth. You go by Elizabeth or Beth? Liz, even better. And Phyllis, right? Maka, okay. That's Make America Cool Again. That's cool with a K. So, all right, they have a couple concerns. The first one is an overly bright street light between two driveways. So between 1306 and 1356 Choya Drive, I guess we've got a light down there that's blinding everybody out. So let's get somebody, well, if we got to call.
So it'll be, so we can get Public Works guys on it. They have access to a
boom truck.
a boom truck if they need to, a
Okay.
few things like that.
Perfect. I'm gonna give this to you after one of you guys, so you guys, and then our message board down there at Cherry Creek Park, it's pretty dilapidated and looks pretty poorly, so let's see if we can figure out what we can do to just refresh that.
So, yeah, just,
Is that ours or is that-
those were, that was a
Scout
scout project, which was a donation to Choya Creek
Okay, so we'll figure out what we can do somehow.
homeowners. Yeah, that was to the homeowners association.
Okay, so
The
that's a
city doesn't
homeowner
know
thing.
that, so
that's
we'd probably need some sort of a request or something like that from the. I
Do we
don't
know whether the sign is property of the HOA itself?
It was donated to the HOA.
Okay.
Okay, so we're.
So it would be the HOA that would be the one that they need to contact because the HOA owns it. We
Yeah,
wouldn't have the authority to.
it's on their.
Yeah, come on up to the mic.
Yeah, please do.
That way we can get you recorded.
Okay, you mentioned that the HOA owns the message board.
Yeah, if the message board is contained on HOA property, so like common area of the HOA, then because the HOA has ownership of the property, it's private property, so the HOA would be the proper party to contact, to ask them about. And HOAs have funds typically set aside for maintaining signage and things like that, or they should.
Well, our president called about the message board, and he was told that it belonged to the city.
Oh, interesting, okay.
And there's only one key, and somebody in the city has the key.
Okay.
We'll
I'm not sure, Darren, you
So
know much
we-
about
We'll get into
that.
that.
Yeah.
Fox, okay.
One of the things I've mentioned now that I'm up here,
Yeah.
that the plexiglass case for messages is so old and cracked and covered with a film. I looked it up, they're called micro cracks,
Yeah.
that you can't read the messages that are put in there.
Oh,
So-
gotcha.
Okay, we'll do a little research into that, to figure out
Okay,
how
I do have that.
somehow, somebody will, yeah. Yeah, there's message boards over by my house and it's great, but we don't have any plexiglass on it. We don't have that. You know, we don't have any plexiglass on that one, but the wind does whip things
Yeah,
off of it.
and those ones were donated to the city because they're in city right away.
Those, yes.
They were
those
donated
ones,
to the
yeah.
city.
I do have the
Yeah,
key
well,
to
mine's
3
right.
of them, and that's where I post public hearings and stuff. And the one on Westfield as well, you can't really see through it.
No, it's bad.
There's one, so great.
On Westfield.
Yeah, those were all Eagle Scout projects.
Yeah, I remember they moved it from one spot to that spot over there. So, okay, well, maybe we need a little maintenance. But thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ladies.
Is that a requirement, Emily, that we post it throughout the city?
Kind of, yeah.
It is, or is this a
It's a good place.
is this a message board that's past its prime now that we have a
There are-
website and everything else?
That's a good question. There are requirements under state code that we have to post, like notice of certain hearings for like land use regulations, and it has to be within X amount of feet of affected parties. So that's why they're posting on message boards close to those properties.
No, let's look into it.
Yep.
I can't imagine it being, we got a budget meeting tomorrow, so we can bring it up. All right, well, is anybody else from the public here that likes to speak? All right, we're gonna move into our business item, and ladies, if you wanna stay, you can stay, but if you wanna leave, we're not gonna hold it against you. But we're gonna move into our business items. We're gonna move into item G2. Discuss the possible action on supplement agreement number 6 with Santa Consultant for the service of Tokyo Parkway in the amount of $300,000.
Yeah, so we're running into this situation with the Parkway where we have contracts with these vendors. Most of them are for time and materials. They're not like a not to exceed contract. And so, you know, it really depends on the vendor. Stanley specifically, theirs was date limited, and it only went through like August of 2024. And so while this is for $300,000, they're billing for their time, their actual time accrued. And this agreement essentially extends that time through, it's not on here. It was
July 2025.
July of this year. So we're really holding ourselves to a deadline with that. get it done. So it's not that we are guaranteeing them payment of $300,000. That's just the approximate amount. And there may be a couple other similar vendors like that, like AGEC, that we have similar extensions that we'll be looking at in the next couple meetings.
So since there's a pause in construction right now, is Stanley Consultants still putting in hours?
Yep.
There's not a pause in construction because we are actively moving the power line. That's all part of it is change orders to the project with UDOT. So that there, plus the tie-in on the north side, plus the sand pocket. So they're here inspecting that on a full-time basis.
Okay.
And we do see ebbs and flows in the hours that they are billing. So it's ranging from, in a very busy month, it'll be upwards of $50,000, whereas in these slower months, last few months, it's been closer to like $20,000. So that's kind of the range that we're seeing from
So
them.
it's on the low end right now while
Right.
things are slow on that junction. Okay.
Yep.
Can we extend it past that time, or is that specifically what the contract calls?
Yeah,
Number
that's
6.
how the contract's drafted
Okay.
right now.
Let's just get it done. Let's be done by July, Joe.
Well, I
Let's
mean,
not-
I just
let's
don't
not.
want to come back and, I know they're going to be under the 300, well, we don't know that, but I just don't want to come back and extend it a month if we need to.
So what are you suggesting?
I would just say, like,
Going
if I
another
was,
month out or?
if I was going to make a motion, I
dollar
would say we could extend it up to, but not to exceed 300,000 up to the end of 2025. So if they were still within their budget,
Yeah,
they can go up to that deadline.
yeah.
Do we get any kind of cost breakdown from them?
How
We
it
do.
was, yeah.
How he's getting his billing?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm so disappointed with the whole Stanley Consultants with this big list I got, so I'll never approve anything again. I'm just, what he's cost that consulting company by not following UDOT standards and things, it's not in our best interest. For me, I don't think he served Tocqueville in his best interest. So I'm just super disappointed. And I can name them all off, and they're all legit. That he went ahead and give contractors to go ahead and do it, and it was not even approved by the state. It's not a state standard. It's not anything to do with any of their safety. So they had to go back and redo stuff because they were told by a certain consultant that it's okay, that's good. So I'm just, for me, I'm not approving $1 for them anymore. You guys can approve them. It's got to be paid, but I will not self-consciously, from what I see and what I know, I think we just wasted the state's money on this particular consultant.
So
And if anybody wants to see these, you're sure welcome to see them.
I think it would
That's
be
my
wise
gripe.
for you to just give it to our city manager.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you ought to keep it to yourself. If there's some legitimate concerns that you have, then
There is, I've brought them out before. And I'm kind of bringing them out again, but I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I just threw them under the bus.
The state spec, they were building it to the design standards. The design was never built to state spec in the first place, so
But it should have been.
it should have been, but that's not Stanley's fault. They were following the plan.
But Stanley
On the
also
state
works
portion.
for UDOT, meaning that they're one of their picks of their consultants, so they should know what the state specifications are.
They should have been.
And said, hey, wait, this is not right. This needs to be this way. But that never happened through the whole project. So it's always redo.
Yeah, we do discuss,
And
concerns that
anybody-
we as staff
anybody
have.
that can pave a road and pave the whole thing rougher than rough, and not one person from the consulting said, hey, guys, stop, whoa, let's fix this problem before you keep going. No. This is the kind of things that I just can't believe happens, and it's continuing happening.
Mhm.
Who's watching out for Tocqueville?
So
And
I
it's,
just
and
have
it's not costing us, but it's costing the state taxpayer something and extending this project on further and further. And I believe you know some of the stuff I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I definitely do. The thing is okay, you have multiple options here is to not renew anything, remove them from the project, then what? Then we because we have to have somebody, it's in the agreements between Tocqueville and UDOT that we have somebody doing this. to bring somebody into this late on the game.
I
would be-
understand
would be
that.
detrimental in a different way. I agree with you.
3 years
I
ago, we should have got rid of Ray Charles.
Yeah.
We didn't. We didn't act on it. We let that drag out an extra year. It cost more money.
But yeah, like I say, you know,
So,
it's
for me,
kind of like.
You're stuck with them.
We've
I
done
agree
this,
that, but
we've done this before
I don't
with
have to
another
vote for it.
consultant, and that it's difficult to bring a new consultant on this late in the game.
It is.
Oh, if we could go back, we'd do everything different. We'd do everything different.
But we're still doing the same thing month after month after month after month. I believe I brought this up a year ago.
Yep.
I believe I brought it up before I came on city council. And we failed to act on it.
Well, we've acted, it's,
So, and I'm
You know.
acting, I'm just telling you
Right.
what I'm gonna do, so.
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
matter.
fine.
I cannot, for what I know and see happens, it's been wasted money for the town of Tocqueville.
Yeah.
Or UDOT.
right, it's money that's been not wisely spent on, there's a lot of things on the project, that are that way.
I know.
And it's not just Stanley, there's lots of,
He's your consultant. He consults everything that goes on.
all right, any other discussion on item 2?
Make a motion.
Yes, you may.
Make a motion that we approve the supplemental agreement number 6 for Stanley Consultants for its services for Tocqueville Parkway in the amount of $300,000 with did we change the completion date on it?
If you'd like to move it to end of the year or whatever you'd like.
November 2025.
November 25. Okay, I have a motion?
How's that gonna work for 300,000? If it goes to November, it's gonna have
Well,
to be
that's
a higher
it's-
number.
They would have to come back to
To ask
change
more
the
money.
number. So what we're saying is if they're under budget, then they don't have to come back and amend the date.
Yeah.
So if there's still $300,000 left, then they don't have to come change the date. I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this item? Other roll call vote, starting your end, Chuck.
Yay.
Yay.
Aye.
Nay.
All right, motion approved. All right, item G3, discuss the possible action on ordinance 2025, motor vehicle and traffic code revisions. I believe this is about parking.
It
Yes,
is.
parking.
Yep, this is our time limited parking.
Versus standing.
So I made some changes. The blue is what I changed on.
Wow.
And that was based on Hurricane City's code. So that was kind of what was discussed at the meeting, just adding those things and leaving the 96 hours. Kayla reviewed it and you'll see her changes above that. So she took similar verbiage, but matched it to what the traffic code says. So that would be consistent. So it is kind of what you requested, but those red lines up top would be just a little bit different than what we spoke about. The only thing I would mention is that she added at the end, which for a time period of 96 hours in any 100-hour period. I don't know how you feel about that, or if you want to explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I can explain a couple of the changes. So like Emily was saying, the first change I made was I just matched. So we had a list of items or a list of vehicles that couldn't be parked on the road. I matched it to the state code. And the reason I did that was to ensure that we have definitions, because we've had litigation matters before. It sounds silly, but it comes down to what's a commercial vehicle? Oh, we don't know what the definition of it is, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure we had terms that had definitions. So each of these terms that I used is defined in the traffic code, and I tried to make it so that it was as broad as possible. The other change I made that Emily was touching on is I struck the term consecutive, because that can be problematic sometimes determining whether somebody's parked for a consecutive period. Like if they leave for a few minutes, is it no longer consecutive, that sort of thing. So I just put for a time period which exceeds 96 hours in any 100-hour period.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
First of all, below you do have the word consecutive in,
Yes, good
in the
catch.
other one.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was going to recommend two changes. There's two Scrivener's errors. So in 623, the first Scrivener's error is where it says in the fourth line, or to allow the vehicle to be parked, it should say, or to allow any of the aforementioned. And then the second scrivener's error is consecutive should be struck, and it should say the exact same thing as above. So should not exceed 96 hours in any 100-hour period. So thank you.
So if consecutive is out, then are we looking at somebody where you're totaling the total amount of time over a year that they would?
No, it's 100 hours.
Any 100-hour period.
100 hours.
So if they exceed 96 hours in any 100-hour period,
So
then
they have to
they
be
would
gone
go
for 4 hours and 100 hours, minimum
Okay.
4 hours.
Yes.
So 4 hours and 1 minute, they're gone out of 100 hours. They're legal.
Okay, I get it. All right.
And who keeps track?
This is scary.
You, Chuck, good job.
You're gonna go paint a line on the ground and date, put the time on it, go
Needless
back
to
on
say-
100 hours.
That's a good question. Brings up another point that we talked to code enforcement about today. So someone would have to make a complaint,
Right.
and
Right.
whether that's after the 96 hours has passed or whether it's only been 24 hours, they would have to, the sheriff's office would go out and tag that vehicle. And then from that point, they have to observe it for another 96 hours before they could enforce this. So if you wanted to shrink that to 48 hours, then that may make that total period that they were parked there 96. Otherwise, it may be, anywhere up from 96 plus another 96 hours.
192.
I say leave it because the problems that we've had are like staying for weeks and months. So,
We
I
can
think
start
if
with this
we
and-
can start with this, and if it's, if it continues to be an ongoing issue, then we can revise it. That's my recommendation.
That's good. Is that a motion?
No, that's not a
No.
motion.
Not ready yet. Then we added camping restrictions. So it just says that they can't, and this also has terminology from the traffic code, can't park there. You did ask for clarification whether or not you could give permission for someone to park there if they were visiting family or something like that. So I added that, and Kayla struck it.
I struck it.
Just
I will
because it's-
explain why I struck it, and you guys can tell me if I'm off base. But my concern with allowing for permission, well, first, I think if we, just given the language in 623, so if you scroll back up, they can park on a public road for 96 hours in any 100-hour period. So to me, that deals with a lot of the problems. I get a little hesitant to put something like give permission, because then it's like, who gave permission? How do we verify that? I worry that there's issues, people taking advantage and there not being a definite time frame. Somebody who wants to park there for 2 months says, well, I have permission to park here, and they just park there. So that was my concern with that. If you guys don't feel like it's totally addressed in 623, we can talk about it, but that was my thought with striking that language.
The only thing I added was as long as the parking does not violate any other section of the chapter, which kind of, I think, would cover the parking longer than 96 hours as well.
So the conflict, I think what I see in that one, what you're saying, Kayla, is with the camping restriction, no person may sleep. So if somebody pulls pulls on the street in front of your house in a motorhome, they can't sleep in it.
Right.
So because of our ordinance, so regardless of our 96 hours, they still can't sleep in it. So
Okay.
leaving that in, that would allow somebody visiting a residence to sleep in their motorhome.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out.
No, I see your point. It's a valid point. So as it's currently drafted, you can park, but you cannot sleep.
Correct.
So that's the difference, and that's a decision for council to make. Do we want people to have the right to sleep? I mean, I see your argument. Maybe you have somebody come in from out of state and they,
Cousin Eddie, you never know, he's gonna show up.
Cousin Eddie might show up, you never know.
when he's gonna show up.
But on the other hand, I would say that we'd caution adding that kind of language, because I anticipate that people could be prone to take advantage of that.
So an operable vehicle, a junk one, you could park it under for 96 hours, move it for a day, and then bring it back for another 96.
Good.
And that's
That's
what
how
we're
it's
trying to
currently
kind of
drafted.
avoid, is having
Yes.
all the non-working vehicles
Correct.
on the street.
Correct.
So it should be.
We can shorten that
96
time
should go
period.
away, shouldn't it?
What?
I think some of that could be
96
covered
hours and you
in
can't
the
come back
nuisance
or
ordinance
something.
as well.
Is there
That's a good point,
in the
Emma.
nuisance ordinance?
The inoperable vehicles, yeah.
There is some,
If it's a
inoperable,
nuisance,
but it's just a pile of parts. And they shuffle it down the street 100 feet or 10 feet with their tractor just to make it a pile. I know what you're talking about, 'cause I've seen stuff. You know, then in 2 days, they take the tractor and push it back to the other spot for another couple days, so we definitely don't want that.
So going back to the camping. So if I had a cousin come by with an RV and all he needed was my permission to be in front of my house in the past, now I have to come to the city or he has to go to the city and get permission.
Right, some kind
to
of
put that
permission.
RV, and I just don't know.
That's not,
No,
that's not in the code, Gary.
Well, it says right there, you can't camp at all.
It says you can't camp at all.
Well, no.
But to what you're
Beforehand.
saying, Gary, all you have to do is give them permission if we put the red line back in.
Permission from whom and what kind of
It
permission?
just says, it says right here.
Well,
it says-
currently it says,
The
except
resident.
as specifically authorized beforehand in writing by the city. So if you anticipated that your
Oh, did
cousin
you
was
take
coming.
that out?
Oh, you added
It-
that.
It's still in there in my version, right?
Yeah, that's included.
It says,
Yeah.
it says a vehicle may be temporarily parked on a public street or right of way while visiting a residence, provided the resident grants permission.
Okay,
It
but
doesn't say anything about the city.
that's redlined out.
Above
I
it.
struck that language. So as it currently
Oh, you
reads, you would
struck
have to get permission from the city.
Where does it say that?
So it says, no person may sleep, camp, or establish a campsite on any street, alley, or right of way, or any public property within the city limits, except as specifically authorized beforehand in
Okay.
writing by the city.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
That's what I'm
Gotcha.
what I'm wondering.
Okay.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Because that is the public right of way. It's not your property if it's on the street. They could park in your driveway without permission from the
I think
city.
it's kind of
You can park your vehicle out on the street, then they can park theirs in your driveway.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
mean,
And
there's a
they can't
different,
demonstrate
there's a
in your
different
driveway.
sense of the safety and reality. I mean, if you're on Highway 17 or something,
Right.
that's a different right of way, right? Or if you're on Westfield, one of the artery roads, it's more dangerous to do that. If you're at the end of a cul-de-sac, I mean, that's what the city needs to look at if they were going to grant permission is,
Right, the city might not grant permission if it's right in front of Dave Theobald's house.
Yeah.
Because you're right there on that blind corner and everything else and say, no, we're not gonna let you do that
City
there.
council to give permission.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know
I
how
hear what
many,
you're saying.
I don't know how many citizens
Right.
will know that they have to come into the
Right.
city and get permission for someone to put an RV in front of their house.
Especially
tell 'em.
Friday night.
I just, I just don't see that.
Well, I think the way it would be construed is it's just prohibited unless they come in and get permission from the city. So I would imagine, it's enforced as it's prohibited. And then the person who has this issue would probably read this and then come in and ask for permission and see that there was an exception.
Yeah, the first time you have to have a
First
complaint
complaint.
made first, and then you
And
have
then-
to show up and enforce the code, and then,
then they're going to
Second
call
time.
Justin at 2 a.m. to get permission.
right.
I like it.
Anytime.
Yeah,
I will have to run it by every city councilman at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
to make sure they have permission.
Take a phone vote.
I just, if it's based upon a complaint being filed, I can go along with it.
I'm with you, Gary. We're getting to where we're trying to micromanage every little decision our citizens make, except we're also trying to help protect our citizens from their neighbor not being a good neighbor. So we gotta look at it both ways.
Or somebody transient coming through the city and
Or
decides I'm
some
gonna park
transit,
right
hey, I
here.
love Toccoa, it's beautiful, I'm gonna just
right
park around the city for 90 days.
The reality we come back to every time is enforcement.
Enforcement.
I
Yes.
mean,
Is this a problem now?
only at your
All this
house.
stuff is a problem?
Yeah, there's a lot of abandoned stuff once in a while that sits out there for a couple of years.
It's your house, not mine.
I don't recall anything on the street. So if the resident gives approval, then he can keep it there for how long? Forever?
96 hours.
No,
No,
that
not
was
according to this.
struck out.
Oh.
The camping.
Well, you
So,
could change it
yeah.
to that. You could take the city out and
So
make
you're
it a
gonna
resident
strike the
that,
red,
and then
right?
that's up to you.
Yeah, the red would be straight.
The way it's read currently, you can park on a public street for 96 hours in any 100-hour period, but you cannot camp on public property that's not
Unless-
designated for camping. That's the basic interpretation.
Unless you, in that part that's not struck, saying you get permission from.
Unless you get permission from the city.
Parking and camping, two different things.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
there's people living in them, you can.
So you can camp with a motorhome in front of your neighbor's house.
Only
No,
to get
you may
permission
not
from the city.
sleep.
What does it say? Well, is that in a different code?
That's that one right there.
For
It
forehand
says,
writing for the city.
Except as specifically authorized before in writing by the city.
Specifically. That's displacing, that's displacing the number one.
Specifically authorized before.
But the question is, this is if they're sleeping in the RV.
Correct.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, gee.
If they're not sleeping in it, then
Then they
it
can park
falls
for
into
96
the
hours.
parking.
Right, and then they move it.
So the sleeping issue in this is if people go to ride, and this has happened in Trail Ridge Estates, there was a lot of people camping at the bottom of Levi's Twist.
Yep.
So if someone can't give them permission to go there, the city should never encourage camping in public
Right.
spaces of the parks, the city parks, or not public, or city land also. So in reality, the only reason this is in here is for that Trail Ridge Estates. That's the only problems that I'm aware of. So it's not like somebody's going to say, well, are you visiting family? No, I just want to go camp in the street,
Right.
right? It's going to be people that are.
Val.
Yeah.
I am aware of several motorhomes, fifth wheel trailers that have been parked on Peachtree and Mulberry endless times.
Yeah.
Okay, it hasn't been as much lately, but it has been for a long time. We walk those streets all the time.
They're living in them.
Well,
And they're hooked up.
Are
They're,
they?
they're hooked up to power and stuff. So someone's living in
yeah,
them.
someone lives in those.
Mhm.
Yes, I
Mhm.
understand that this will help that situation.
Yep.
One other suggestion, I mean, we could strike the language about obtaining approval from the city beforehand in writing. If you feel it just doesn't make sense, we can strike that language. We can just say, no, it's prohibited.
Right. Yeah, then.
We're closed on Friday and the weekend, so that's when most people come. And besides, if you get out of your motorhome and put your cots on the lawn, it's a person's private property, you can stargaze for 2 days.
That's 4 days. 96 hours is 4 days.
All right, I
Okay.
just
Well-
had to vent. I'm
No,
I'm
you're
not
good.
gonna-
You're
I'm not
good.
going to change the language.
I
I'm
can
I'm
see-
okay with it. If it's based upon, if it's complaint based, then I'm okay with it.
I'm going to say that was a long discussion. I'm not even going to call it for a paragraph. I'm going to call it 2 sentences.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, what else we have in this?
We also made some changes to the terminology just to
I
match the
just
traffic
matched,
code.
yeah, sorry to interject, just match the code.
And then added those definitions here in the chapter just previous to the parking.
Okay.
One other change that I made was 6-2-7, I believe it is, if you want to scroll down to that. This is
6-2-17.
placement of traffic control devices. Right now, if the opinion of a city staff member is that a traffic control device is needed, that's it. That's the only permission that's needed.
Which one is that?
So that was 6-2-7.
7 or 17?
Emily, go back to where you were
17,
before.
17. I apologize.
There you go, 17. I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay. Okay. So, so placement of traffic control devices, all it requires is the opinion of a staff member.
Right.
So-
Because most of our public work guys are traffic certified. Exactly. Perfect.
Okay. Oh, and then last change. So 6-2-21. This is the very last provision. Okay. So something that Bruce and I thought as we were reviewing this was the city may want to consider increasing its fines. So for instance, parking in a fire lane is only a $35 fine. It does ratchet up over time, but you may want to consider increasing your fines. Doesn't necessarily have to be today, but we just noticed they're on the low side.
Dang inflation, you just gotta keep up with every little thing.
Well, right now,
That's what it used to be.
to put it into perspective, so for a fire lane violation, you could park in a fire lane for $125 a month.
That's pretty cheap.
It's a cheap
Pretty
parking
cheap.
spot.
Except
Yeah.
it's 96 hours and you got other problems on top of that. So.
Getting towed.
That's in the camping fire, right?
Would you consider a fire lane would be next to a fire hydrant?
It's still
That's what I would
cheaper than
consider to
RV
be a
park.
fireman, yeah.
Or a
Or a red curve anywhere.
handicap zone, $825 a month. That's pretty
It's steep, but then thereafter only $125 a month.
for there on that. I guess you go there for a year, it balances out pretty good, so.
Emily, I had a couple of questions. So the first document, the blue section, the blue document,
That's the final.
is that the final?
Yeah.
So it doesn't jive with all the stuff that's on the red line and yellow. So I had some concerns with that because it doesn't jive.
Which part?
Well,
Overnight camping specifically.
yeah, that doesn't jive. And then there's some other stuff, but I had some questions on it too. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go through the blue copy, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
We've got some inconsistency.
well, one of the questions I just wanted to bring to the attention of the council and mayor, and I don't know why it's that way, but the dynamic braking devices, which is 614, page
Right.
2. So if you look at that, which is essentially a Jake brake, an exhaust brake on the trucks and stuff,
Yeah.
the penalty is a Class B misdemeanor. So it's not a vehicle code infraction. It's a Class B misdemeanor. So that's $1,000 fine or 6 months in prison if a truck driver is Jake braking down is that the intention of the council?
Is that Utah's law?
I think that's state law.
Is that state
Yeah,
law?
I think we talked about.
Okay,
that.
that's fine, great.
Yeah. I'm
Perfect.
pretty sure we-
That's a pretty stiff penalty. Who's enforcing that? The
The
sheriff?
sheriff.
Okay, all
But
right,
that's the problem is
okay,
by the time the guy goes down the S turn,
sure.
the Jake breaks at 2 a.m. By the time you get a sheriff out there, he's already in Hilton.
Yeah, right,
So,
okay.
He's camping on your front door.
Yeah. So what Ben was bringing up with page 5, overnight camping restrictions, it doesn't jive with what you guys are talking about because it still talks about a
Oh.
vehicle may temporarily, it still has the red line in there.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so that was, so however the council wants to decide whether they want it in or out. So that's one. And then page 6, where am I? 6213, unintended vehicles, duty of driver. So, is this, so if it's real cold in the morning and people have automatic starts on their cars and it's sitting in the driveway, is that
that's in the driveway, I don't think.
an intention of or we're just talking on the street?
The city wouldn't have the authority to enforce this with respect to private property. It
So
would
just
only
the
be
street,
public,
okay.
yes.
Okay, all right, I'm just getting clarification for myself as we're going down. Okay, 6216 on page 7. Park of any vehicle for display or for commercial advertising purposes. Does that include putting a car for sale on a public street, and is that legal or illegal?
96 hours.
Well, regardless,
I don't know.
regardless to 6216, is that
I
for,
think it's ambiguous.
so,
I think it's ambiguous. Yeah, that's a good point. So for
so,
commercial advertising purposes, I mean,
so do we want people parking their car on Toker Boulevard for sale? Is that
Which-
legal or illegal?
They
I'm just
do.
asking.
It's been going on for years.
I'm just asking whether it should
I
be
don't know.
illegal or illegal.
you would only be able to park your vehicle there for 96
Yeah,
hours.
I got that part.
But
I
no, I see
understand
what
that
you're
part,
saying.
yeah.
It's not
It is.
addressed. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get the say the word for me, somebody,
Ambiguity.
out of our codes. So, okay, that's that one. So something else for us to think about. 6217, let's go down to B. I'm not sure why this is in there at all. So curb markings defined. Okay, I understand red. Let's go to 2, blue. Blue shall mean no parking for longer than 1 hour in a city parking lot during evening hours between 10 p.m. and 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. So the park sign says the park is closed from 11 p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. So number 1, why is that in there? Number 2, doesn't blue normally designate handicap? So why is that in there?
It's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen blue used any other way. Maybe Darren or somebody else knows. I'm not aware.
No, that's why I
Yeah.
have no idea. I haven't
It's a good point.
had time to go through.
So we might.
So I didn't parking for longer than an hour in a city parking lot. Doesn't mean you have to be in a city.
No, it
park.
says between the hours.
I know, yeah. So
So,
somebody could pull in right here at the city office and leave it overnight.
no, you can't.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That doesn't have to be, I think it's in city park, but city
It
park.
does say city park.
Well, it doesn't.
It says city parking. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Darren,
City parking lot.
are you
It's
aware of any
all-
areas
It's
that
all
are
over,
blue?
so anyway,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
We can make that every color. I mean, I know pink's your favorite. We can do.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any of those?
But
Yeah, do we have
Blue
any areas
We don't have anything
designated as
painted
blue?
anyway.
Do we have any areas that are designated as blue, like the curb is blue?
No,
Okay.
no, we don't.
So anyway, that's
Just
another.
red. The only thing we have is red, and that's just,
Yeah.
that's
Fire
a curb, that's a curb returns, or what they call basically through an intersection along the curbs, and then at fire hydrants.
No, that's a good, I've never seen blue curve.
I don't think I've seen it in this side of the county at all.
Where'd it come from? How'd it get in there?
It was already in there.
Yeah, it was probably just in there. It was probably
It's
copied
back-
from
it's probably
another.
been there so long that we didn't have handicap parking spots, honestly. 100%, I'm pretty sure it's been there long.
2013.
Okay.
So anyway, that was, so anyway, that was that one. As far as the 96 hours, my only concern is that we have a RV park in Tokerville and BLM land is open for
14 days.
14 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have concerns with being able to park 96 hours with the enforcement. I like the idea of like Laverkin does 48 hours, right? So I like the idea of 48 hours. So that's number one. I also like the idea of, I mean, I understand our residents and people parking in front of the residents with friends that come in and visiting the residents, and that's good. But my intention is to prevent transient camping in Tokerville overnight. So I've seen it in other places and they take over and they're there and hey, this is a great place and all their friends come and everybody's there. And it takes a long time for a city to catch up, change the code, put the signs up and get them out of there. In the meantime, you should see what's left behind when that happens. So those were my concerns. But I'm good with whatever the council and mayor.
So you want to go to 48 hours? Now, is that just for camping?
That falls under camping, and camping just is pretty clear.
You're not going to camp. There's no
Currently, you
96
cannot sleep
hours
in the
for
vehicle. That's the way it's drafted.
Okay. So
There's no
regardless of,
The breakdown in Tokerville, from what I understand it, is that our code doesn't perfectly match the Washington County code, and the county officers have a hard time enforcing our code.
yeah,
So I think we have the pathways to protect us from the camping, even what's there, but it's just, it comes down to enforcement again. If we had our own police
If we have a
station,
problem,
yeah.
we would do this, we would solve these.
we got code enforcement, and then with the sheriff will come out and enforce. I don't know if this is that much different from the county, you
Yeah.
know.
So-
Yeah, well, either way, that's the
Now,
problem.
there was and I don't know, and Kayla, you can please give me your opinion on that, but there was a previous city attorney that said if there was a vehicle parked in front of, in their neighborhood, and the resident went out, took a picture, time-stamped, and then called the sheriff after 48 hours, the previous city attorney said the sheriff would be able to enforce now. And I'm not sure whether that's correct information because that wasn't verified with the sheriff, but I don't know what your opinion on that might be.
Yeah,
I would
no,
say
that's
it
a
was
good
done for 2
question.
days.
So,
I don't know how a sheriff could verify from a time-stamped picture
yeah,
unless you did several
Every
times.
hour.
yeah,
Every
yeah,
hour.
yeah, every couple, yeah, every 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, whatever. But yeah, you're right, I'm not sure. That was just that was a
I guess,
previous
are you saying
discussion.
if the vehicle has since been moved? So,
No, the vehicle comes in,
Okay.
I take a picture
How
of
do
it
you
on
prove
day
it's been
one,
there
day
4
two, I
days?
take another picture of it, day three, I take another picture. Day 4, I take another picture and I call the sheriff and sheriff comes out and here's 4 days worth of this vehicle. Can they enforce it?
That's not what Jason told us today, but we can
Okay.
check.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the first way to enforce it would be fines. That would be probably the first thing.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
talking about.
You're
the
talking about
penalty.
towing.
I'm talking about actually enforcing.
Counting that 96
By,
hours.
As far as-
by the evidence of a resident taking
Yeah, it's a
pictures.
good question. I think it depends on the individual sheriff. I can understand like hesitancy for getting involved. I have seen this play out and have seen hesitancy in enforcing it. But so I think
Yeah.
that's more of a question for
Yeah.
the
My
person who's
concern is
enforcing
they get
it,
8
yeah.
days before they have. to
Well, the
write.
second way is that you don't have to wait 4 days to make the complaint. You can make the
Correct.
complaint in 24 hours or 12 hours. Hey, this
Yeah.
car's been here,
But-
doesn't look like it has any intention to move. They'd probably say whatever, but the complaint is on file. The
Yeah.
complaint starts from that time. You're
Yeah,
gonna-
but they still gotta come out and verify it. They gotta-
Well, yeah, but you're still you're narrowing that 8 days to now 4
I
and a half
do
days or
think
5.
it's an argument for making the period shorter because the longer it is, the harder it is to prove. Has he really been here for 96 hours? If it's shorter, it is a bit easier to prove and it's a little easier to bite off.
Still going to come back to the person filing the complaint from wherever the time starts. So regardless of the time limit, you got to make the complaint, right?
Yeah, but then they gotta come out, they gotta tag it.
Time starts when you tag the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they come
Not
out and they tag
beforehand.
the vehicle, but if you wait 4 days to make the complaint.
Yeah, but you're
But
not
you
gonna,
tag the vehicle on the second day, and the guy comes and the left,
yeah,
and then come back for 2 days, you tag the vehicle for,
right,
because you tag the vehicle, but it hasn't even broken a rule yet.
right,
You
exactly.
know what I mean? How do you, every time you park, I'm gonna call my neighbor and say, hey, my neighbor parked, start the clock.
Yeah,
And I know he might be gone in 2 days. I'm just being a jerk because
right,
I hate my neighbor and I want the sheriff to come out and tag his vehicle. Does
exactly.
that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes
You know?
sense. I mean, I think the way it would play out in reality is you might see somebody suspicious come park and start taking pictures. And then, I mean, you couldn't really report it until the time had elapsed because if you reported it right then, I mean, a violation has not yet occurred. So there's
Right.
nothing that can be done until the
That's a
violation has
hard one.
occurred.
That's a tough one. I mean, that's,
It
Zion,
is.
up in Zion, Springdale has two guys that drive around.
well, they have
Continuing.
parking meters, they have.
Well, but they, in the park,
It is.
they scan the license plate and then they come back in the hour time and scan it again. And then the fine automatically goes
As
to.
soon as we get Springdale's budget, we'll be all.
We're never gonna get that budget.
So do we need to consider a compromise between 48 and 96 and call it 72?
Whatever. I don't care if it's 48, honestly. My house,
72 in an 80-hour period.
if somebody's parking in front of my house on the road, they're gonna have to hike into it. So this, for me, it doesn't matter. 48 hours or 72 or 96. Oh, it's
I get
just,
6 of them on my driveway. So
yeah, exactly. You
I'll
can.
just charge it.
Tell them to leave.
Anyway, so let's get a motion.
I need 626 clarified.
Do you want me to make some more
I want you to
changes then
clarify
and then come
standing
back?
or stand. Are we trying to get somebody?
I noticed, Emily, that the
Are we
blue
trying to
version
get
is
somebody a
not the
ticket for
red line. It
standing?
doesn't have any of my red lines in it.
Okay,
So,
so let's table this. We
Well,
have
no, you don't need
changes.
to, we can approve the red
Oh,
line
approve
version.
the red line, okay, perfect. And then modify the blue line to match the red line, but with what changes? What are we, so
Do
you're
you wanna make
standing
any
and
additional
standing?
changes?
What are you standing in?
Yeah. What is this standing? Define standing or stand. Because no person shall park, comma, stand, comma, stop or operate.
Where
Are we
you at,
getting a
Lee?
ticket for standing in the road?
626?
Is standing mean something else besides standing?
Can you go to the red line version?
I'm just on a version of
Oh,
626.
standing.
It's got,
Oh, I see.
it's got
It's on a one-way road.
yellow lines. It's whatever's on the computer here. Standing. What is standing?
On a one-way road.
Is that me standing?
Vehicle stopped or.
And then you go further down, it says no person shall park,
It seems like
stand.
maybe it
stop.
idling is what it's getting at because it says park a
I don't
vehicle.
think we can control somebody.
I think what stand
standing in the middle of the road.
mean, oh, never
It's
mind,
just
it's like
I was
post
thinking
stuff.
this jacket something up or something, but that just, it's kind of weird little, doesn't have an explanation behind that. Because they have a hard time giving me a ticket for standing. I stand in the road all the time till they honk and I move.
Sometimes.
I'm just reading this really quickly, but I'm imagining somebody quite literally like parking themselves in a roadway. That's what I'm imagining this.
Which
That's a standing?
actually happened not that long ago. Someone stopped a car and then on Toker Boulevard got out and stood there in the middle of traffic. So the sheriff had to be called. I mean,
Well, he's already parked the
stranger
car.
things have happened.
So he's already met the qualifications of parking.
So standing and parking is related to a vehicle, not a person.
But it
In
says
this
no
young-
person shall.
I think
Where truthfully,
That's
The car can't
a little
stand.
ambiguous.
You're parking the vehicle with your person in it.
Oh, I see.
Would
You're
be
separate.
more appropriate. And so they're taking a stand in the vehicle.
So park, yeah.
Is that a political stand?
Or are you just standing?
Yeah, it still pertains to a vehicle on that too.
Maybe stand needs to come out. It seems like that's kind of a.
We can clean that language up. It is, it's awkward. Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's enough.
I didn't make a motion. I will make a motion.
Some of the changes are pretty substantial to the, if you want to take the blue out of there and things like that. So maybe we should clean it up and bring it back.
And
I have
no
no
more
problem with
standing.
that. That's,
I would make a motion, but if you guys want to clean up stand,
It's up to you. Yeah.
We just need to table it or just approve?
well, Joey's got a motion, Sarah.
Approve the red line.
I would say that I'd make a motion to approve the red line version and change the time limits from 72
Or 96.
within 80 hours.
So you want to go from 96 to 72 within 80 hours?
72 hours with an 80-hour
Okay.
overlap. And then we can make some minor changes on the other ones later, like it cleans this up, cements it in, and it's a simple change later.
Do you want to remove the blue parking language, the curb markings?
Yes.
Do you want me to strike that
Sense.
entirely?
Blue curves.
That's under 6 to 17.
Remove it
My
entirely.
computer froze up to only 2 pages, so I forgot about that section.
Remove it entirely in the motion.
And I would like to remove blue entirely, the motion or the reference to blue parking.
I second. Have a motion and a second, and that's clear. You have that motion? Okay. Any more discussion on this item?
I got one.
Okay. We're gonna take the red line, so don't look at the blue line.
Yeah, no, I know. Are we gonna get a decision on cars for sale? On 6 to 16?
I would say let's just address it in the next one, because we're gonna have
Okay.
another correction coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give us some time to think about it.
I'm fine with that.
Wait, can I clarify? So are we adopting the blue line or the red
The
line?
red line.
Yeah.
The red line's what's been struck.
Well, the one-
Red
The
line version.
the red line.
Not, so
version-
when we say blue, I believe we're referring to the drafted ordinance,
Yes.
the actual ordinance language that's
So-
all blue text.
Version 2.
Versus, when we say red line, we're talking about the red and blue edits that
Yes.
were done by Emily and
Kayla's
Kayla.
changes.
Okay, so how the red line reads.
Yeah.
Right.
So there is,
Okay, I just
in our
wanted to make sure.
Dropbox, there's a version 2 and a version 3. My computer is not working. So which version am I looking at then?
They're two different things. One's chapter 1, one's chapter 2.
Okay, so version 2 and version 3.
So it would have to be both of those
Yes.
documents
Yeah, so what my motion would be approve version 2 and version 3
with Kayla's changes
with
here.
Kayla's changes and reduce the time limits from 72 to an 80-hour period.
Perfect.
And remove all the blue parking spots.
Okay. Gary, you still go with your second?
I said on my second.
Okay. Any discussion, further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item G4, discuss the possible action on an interlocal agreement with Washington County for municipal election services. Ben?
I'll hand this off to Emily.
Yeah.
Oh, more Emily.
She's
You're
our
just good at delegating.
elections official.
Yeah, this is just sent by the county. We already have this agreement, they told us. It's just a new version of it. So they handle a lot of the elections. I still do all the public noticing and the declarations of candidacy, but everything else they handle because they have got all the equipment for it and everything like that. It's a budgeted for expense already, so.
How many years have they been doing this for us?
Well, I looked back today and it looks like Dana did it a few times herself, 2017, 2019 election. Definitely the last two were done
Okay.
this way.
You don't want to do it?
I will if you want me to. But we don't have the equipment. We'd have to do training of poll workers, things like that.
The-
I don't think it's feasible.
Well, Jeremy,
I believe 2017 was the last time we did it,
Okay.
because that's the last time that
It's
I
not,
ran.
it's a mail-in state now too, so.
it is.
Since 2018.
Yeah, the whole state's now, and I'm not happy
That's
about
the
it.
reason it changed.
It sounds like there's usually a polling location in Hurricane,
Yeah.
so you can go in person to Hurricane. I asked if they would come here and she just didn't think that they had enough equipment to do another one here.
Or enough interest.
They used to, but they don't.
We used
They
to.
burned
We did.
line
They
up
did?
here.
We had four four booths in here to vote in. It was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So. we had a-
How often does this
For
update?
the community.
How often do we update the interlocal? Every year?
This one can go for 10 years unless it's replaced, but for some reason they replaced it this year.
Okay. Mayor, are you ready for motion?
I need the motion, sorry, in your packet, I just added today the resolution. So we just want to make sure that we're approving the resolution and then authorizing,
Interlocal agreement,
the mayor.
resolution.
okay. Authorize the mayor to accept it.
Mayor, move to approve the full municipal election service interlocal agreement with the Washington County as presented and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4 items down. Hey, we're off to our calendar of events. It's actually only 3 because we got rid of the first one. All right, our strategic planning session tomorrow on the 6th and also on the 13th, noon to 4. This is a public meeting, right, Ben?
It is. Yep.
Public meeting, so public come out and give us your, well, it's not open.
They
yet.
don't.
So you come and hang out, but
Come
you
and
can't.
listen.
The format will be a round table. We
Okay.
decided to do it in here,
Perfect.
and then we'll have outside seating.
Okay, so you come and listen, but can't come.
Yeah, it's come and listen,
Right.
and watch you guys do your business, but it's not.
Come and listen and bite your tongue, and but come and show and help us support, so. Good job.
Okay, so we're gonna come in at noon, we're gonna go to 4 o'clock.
Mhm.
Do we have enough to fill it up to 4 o'clock?
Very highly likely, yeah.
Okay, then we're gonna, is the one we're doing a week from now, is that gonna be the same stuff or additional stuff?
Yeah, so it'll be a two-part session because basically tomorrow we will be building the goals, and then staff will take a week to build objectives under those goals. So the council will be prioritizing them. We essentially have a slew of items to choose from. We'll have discussions about what the priorities are. Then we'll come back a week from now and then say, okay, these are of the 5 goals that we chose. This is how we accomplish those
So
goals.
this is not an either or, this is a one thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Two-part.
gonna block 4 hour on my calendar.
Yep.
That's what I really want to know.
So
Yes.
members of the staff will be here as well.
Oh, yeah.
We wanted to do it in one day and make it a 12-hour day for you, but we thought maybe.
I don't.
We
wanna
didn't
do
want that.
No.
I've got enough.
So, yeah, we were kind and said, just-
You don't want me here for 12 hours. Ask Ben, he's Ben.
No.
Okay, all right. Community readiness meeting Thursday, February 13th, Town Hall, 7 PM.
I need to go.
I believe they're doing medications and all sorts of stuff, so I think it'll be a good meeting. Spring community cleanup, Saturday, February 22nd, and Sunday, February 23rd. Is that dumpsters?
yes.
That's what it says.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting our dumpsters. We are gonna move them out through town again. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. We're going back to our old spots. All right. Anybody have any reason to go into closed session this evening? I hope not. All right. Well, this meeting is adjourned at 7:18. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies, for hanging in